Well, it's pretty pathetic, by the way. And the Prime Minister today resorts to cartoonish scaremongering against nuclear power, like this.
Labor is the party of the light on the hill. The Liberals just want us to glow in the dark.
How utterly childish that is. I mean, the French have nuclear power. Do they glow in the dark? Albanese is ordering nuclear subs. Will our sailors glow in the dark? I mean, Labor must really be out of arguments against nuclear power, which the opposition is now pushing, when the Prime Minister says that kind of thing or resorts to a complete untruth, or should I say, lie.
Nuclear power is the most expensive form of new energy. It certainly doesn't help with climate change.
Yes, nuclear power is more expensive than wind and solar, but with this crucial difference, you can rely on it. You can still make electricity when there's no wind and when there's no sun. And it certainly does help with global warming because it's zero emissions. So why the lies? But let me show you the most dangerous man in the Albanese government. It's Climate Change and Energy Minister Chris Bowen. Our electricity system in his hands. Now, we know our electricity costs have been soaring, but at the same time, so is the risk of blackouts as this government goes green. And that makes Bowen's attack yesterday in the federal opposition's nuclear power plan even more stupid. The opposition basically wants to just scrap Australia's irrational ban on nuclear power and let investors sort out whether they can make it pay or not. If they can't, we won't get nuclear power. If they can, we win. But that is just too much freedom for Chris Bowen, who yesterday invented all kinds of reasons to say no.
Well, the market hasn't sorted out in any other country in the world.
Again, false. There are now about 440 nuclear reactors in 30 countries, supplying about 10% of the world's electricity. So Bowen tried again, this time mocking the claim by the opposition's energy spokesman, Ted O'Brien, that we could have a nuclear power industry in as little as 10 years.
Tell him he's dreaming. I mean, I don't know what experts he's talking to. The United States, with a very developed regulatory regime, with a very developed nuclear industry, the nuclear leader of the world. The average build time of a nuclear power plant in the United States has been 19 years.
In fact, even the government's own Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organisation says, well, actually a small modular nuclear reactor could take as little as 3 to 5 years to build, and a large reactor 6 to 12. The government just needs to get a wriggle on with the regulations. And really, if delays are the reason to say no, then say no to the Albanese government's green energy scheme to replace fossil fuels with wind and solar by around 2050. That's still 26 years away. For instance, Bowen's rollout of 26,000 or 28,000 kilometres of transmission lines to hook up all his planned new wind and solar plants at an estimated cost of $80 billion is way behind schedule. His snowy 2.0 scheme to store green energy is already 10 times his promised price and years behind. So then came Bowen's final flabby argument yesterday.
Australia has the best renewable resources in the world. It would be a massive economic own goal to give up utilising those resources.
Now, I'm guessing what Bowen means is that we've got all this wind and solar, more than most countries, but if he's crying over wasted resources, he should howl about wasting our uranium. We're actually sitting on the world's biggest reserves of uranium, but we won't use it for our own electricity. Joining me is Michael Kroger, former Victorian Liberal Party President, Steve Conroy, former Labor Senator and Cabinet Minister. Why is Labor so against, Steve, ending this ban on nuclear power when its arguments are so weak and our power system so shoddy?
Well, I think despite you wanting to mock what Chris was saying, Andrew, I have to say I strongly disagree with you. Matt Canavan has belled the cat. Small nuclear modular ones, they are not part of this package. They are not on the table. They are off the equation. No one's done it anywhere in the world. And at least Matt Canavan.
I also mentioned large.
No, I'll come to nuclear.
Again.
No. I will come to the.
Why?
Okay.
Why?
So on the large ones,
the ban. We're not talking about building the nuclear. Right now, we're talking about ending the ban and letting the market sort it out.
Because that was That was a bipartisan position. I mean, I love the Peter Dutton suddenly discovered courage when Matt
Stephen,
Canavan...
stop deflecting.
I'm not
like
deflecting.
A straight answer. I mean, why is it against the ban? And then you say, oh, it's bipartisan when it's clearly not. Why is it against the ban?
Why did John Howard vote for it? Why did Tony Abbott not overturn it?
We'll talk about that another time. Why is Labor now against ending this ban?
Well, I'm quite comfortable with the ban. I don't have a problem with the ban.
All right, because you don't like... All right, you like... All right, here we go.
Well, mate, ever since I was at university from 1975 onwards, Labor have hated the mining industry. It's sick, it's absurd, given that Australia's built on the back of the mining industry. They've never liked any of our mining companies. They don't like things being extracted from the ground. They say nothing about exports except they take the money. They just seem to have this obsession with the Australian mining industry. Otherwise, there's 56 nuclear reactors in France. They've had nuclear
Do
power.
the French glow in the dark? You've been...
No, they don't. No, not recently. I was there recently. No, I haven't seen anyone glowing recently. Yeah. Well, I've been going for 60 years. They've had nuclear power in France. 56 reactors they've got now. 70% of the electricity comes from nuclear power. You know, in France, they export nuclear reactors to South Korea, to China and to South Africa. You can buy them in the architecture for them from the French. So nuclear reactors are all around the world. Why would it, if you were in for no emissions, which is what nuclear is, if you're looking for, steady, base load power, which is the other absolute, you must have, why would you be against it? Well, the only reason I can think of is because Labor have had this hatred, going back to Garrett in the 1970s, the anti-uranium movement. They've always hated the mining industry. Nothing else logical, Andrew, makes any sense. Nothing makes sense.
Bring out the crazy in Labor.
It does.
Look,
it does.
The Prime Minister said the Liberals want to make people glow in the dark. Why is he then ordering nuclear submarines?
Well, they actually are little, small, self-contained modular. Whereas that's not the Liberal Party's policy today.
So it's the big ones that make you glow in the dark.
Well,
the big
there has been some history.
There
has been some history of this. If you want to talk about a Russian incident, an American incident,
fewer than 100 people
a Japanese incident, and one that you and I have debated many times.
Not again.
Small,
not one.
English.
Not Chernobyl again.
No. See, you're deflecting and deflecting and deflecting.
I'm not deflecting at all.
Why, if we're going to glow in the dark by having nuclear power, has the Prime Minister ordered nuclear subs?
Because they are completely self-contained, not what is being proposed by the Liberal Party. So let's not try and deflect here.
So it's only one kind of reactor that makes you glow in the dark, not the other?
The large ones have a much greater capacity to, by definition.
Steve, this is the point. A sensible person like you is tied up in knots over a stupid, irrational ban that no
Andrew,
one with reason
you've known me
can justify.
35 years, and you know why I've been opposed to the nuclear industry in this country.
Yes, and I don't make any sense. I still can't make any sense of it. The reason tells you it is not what Labor claims. It doesn't make you glow in the dark. I mean, it's just a joke. Meanwhile, what Labor's electricity system, most of Labor states, right, have a look what it's doing. We've got now a report today that private hospitals have been forced to shut for many reasons. I'm only naming one of them. At least 6 hospitals shut in 16 months. And one of the reasons, one of the pressures on them is electricity prices. An Ernst & Young study reported in The Australian found that private hospitals' energy and utilities bills were up 13.8% in 1 year. I mean, seriously.
So, Andrew, this is the power of demonstration. It's why the left demonstrate all day and have ever since I started in short pants and watching the anti-Vietnam demonstrations. Demonstrations are designed to intimidate. They've intimidated successive governments over the year on global warming, Liberal governments as well. And so what we have is this massive headlong rush to renewables, to get rid of cars, fossil fuels, etc., well ahead of what we need to. And we're as much to blame as Labor, and you've now got this obsession with renewables. As you've pointed out many times, we're less than 1% of the world, so whatever we do here makes no difference, yet people are bleeding everywhere with these massively increased
I don't get it.
Power prices.
If they came with reasonable arguments to say, I'll consider that, I'm a reasonable guy. Stephen Jones, Steve, is the second minister now that has been caught charging a fortune to the taxpayer. Last week, the story was that Employment Minister Tony Burke somehow managed to blow $57,000 of our money on a 4-day trip to Washington. Today, Assistant Treasurer Stephen Jones, he actually racked up a $43,000 Commonwealth car bill in 9 months, partly because 3 times at least he used it to drive 2.5 hours from his Shell Harbour home to Parliament and back, even though he's got a taxpayer-funded car to make that journey, which other MPs around him, that's how they do it.
Yeah, look, these are the sort of arguments that I find quite pathetically trivial, Andrew. And both sides of politics, I mean, if you look at today's stories about how much Bridget McKenzie has spent travelling away from home and claiming travel allowance. I don't have a problem with this. They are doing their job.
The problem I have? Senators
in particular.
The problem I have is the contempt for taxpayers' money.
This is not
if you spend money on
nothing to
like
do
this,
with the contempt. This is actually trying to do your job. Bridget McKenzie is doing her job. Whether she's going to a country fair, whether she is attending a rally, whether she is
find that it's the means of transport
on her policy issue.
Be given a taxpayer-funded car, taxpayer-funded petrol.
You can't actually. If you're sitting there driving, you can't do the same things you're doing in your ministerial car.
That's
If you're going to a ministerial meeting, you can't read your paperwork, you can't do all those things you can in a car. So there are valid reasons, which is why I do disagree with you strongly on this one. Whether it's Bridget McKenzie's travel or Stephen Jones's travel, I will defend them both.
What about Tony Burke? Can we defend him too? Can we defend him?
The international, absolutely. International travel, you yourself, Michael, have never blamed.
The car in Washington.
You have never criticised
Michael Kroger, thank you to you.